Hey everybody, I'm Caden Zimmerman, and today I'm going to be reading from Joshua chapter 5. The interesting thing about this chapter, it's right in between two of Sunday school's favorite Bible stories, but we never tell it in Sunday school. And I understand that, but at the same time, I hadn't read this up until a week ago, and it's essential to the story of the Israelites finding the Promised Land. Feel free to read along with me. Now when all the Amorite kings west of Jordan, and all the Canaanite kings along the coast, heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan before the Israelites until they had crossed over, their hearts melted in fear, and they no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. At that time the Lord said to Joshua, "Make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again." So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeath-Harloth. Now this is why he did so. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of military age, died in the wilderness on the way after leaving Egypt. All the people that came out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness during the journey from Egypt had not. The Israelites had moved about in the wilderness 40 years until all the men who were of military age when they left Egypt had died, since they had not obeyed the Lord. For the Lord had sworn to them that they would not see the land he had solemnly promised their ancestors to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So he raised up their sons in their place, and they were the ones Joshua circumcised. They were still uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. And after the whole nation had been circumcised, they remained where they were in camp until they were healed. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I have rolled away the reproach from Egypt from you." So the place has been called Gilgal to this day. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, while camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, the Israelites celebrated the Passover. The day after the Passover, that very day, they ate some of the produce of the land, unleavened bread and roasted grain. The manna stopped the day after they ate this food from the land. There was no longer any manna for the Israelites, but that year they ate the produce of Canaan. Now, when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" "Neither," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." Then Joshua fell face down on the ground in reverence and asked him, "What message does my Lord have for his servant?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. So I'm thinking you can understand why we don't usually tell this story in Bible school. I mean, as soon as Joshua starts sharpening that flint knife, we kind of boogie over to chapter 6. But this is really important. This is the Israelites getting right with God. Because before this, the Israelites were wandering around the desert for 40 years, and they'd really taken God for granted and weren't really obeying him. I mean, God was literally giving them food out of the sky, and they were disobeying him. But now that God is showing them into the Promised Land and keeping them safe by, kind of like scaring the kings around them so the kings aren't going to attack them, and the Israelites are grateful. And so God tells him, "Hey, show me how grateful you are by circumcising everybody, by keeping the old covenant that I made with Abraham." So then Joshua circumcises all the men. I mean, it said he made more than one knife, so I assume somebody was helping him, but that's still really impressive, so God must have really been helping him. So even though this chapter is kind of nasty, and it doesn't defy physics like the chapters right next to it, it's still really important. I mean, it shows the best way we can show gratitude to God is by cleaning ourselves out. That's what the circumcision represents. It's kind of a disgusting metaphor. What it's saying in its own creative way of saying it is that if we're grateful to God for his grace and his love and all the things he's given us, then one of the best ways to do that is to clean out our lives and to live for him and to get rid of all the junk. It just says that in a really weird way. Which goes to show that even if there's a chapter in the Bible that's kind of weird or gross or we don't quite understand, you can still learn from it, even if it doesn't seem that way at first glance. I mean, when I first got this, I was like, "Oh, great, I got the circumcision chapter." But it's really cool, and I did end up learning a lot from it. Which is actually the way that a lot of the stories in the Old Testament are. But 2 Timothy 3:16 says that all scripture is God-breathed and useful. So really what I'm saying is, Don't be scared of those weird Bible stories. God made those. There's a reason for those, even if it's not quite as clear. Thanks for watching. See you guys.